Hey guys, I'm Becky and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the books that I'm most excited to read that are releasing between January and June of 2025. And I know it's a little bit late, but that's all right. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So we're going to start with January 14th, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix came out. This is a book that I have already read. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. If you were fans of his Southern Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires or My Best Friend's Exorcism, I think you'll really like this one. It's another period piece that deals with what's going on in the US during this time while also giving a supernatural twist to it. So this book is taking place in the 70s and it is following 4 girls who are in a home for unwed mothers. They are all teenagers. And while we're following all 4 of them's journey, we're only getting the point of view of one of the girls. And the book is basically about how they got here, what's going to happen to them afterwards, and how they find witchcraft. Now, while this book was thoughtful and very well done, this book is still very gruesome. It is still a horror. It's a Grady Hendrix. So we are getting extreme detail in some parts that wasn't really needed if you ask me, but it definitely did what it was trying to do. It is also a tough book to read in today's US climate. So I will say, kind of go in knowing that, kind of sheltering yourself a little bit, that the parallels of what's happening in this book and the parallels of what's happening today is very similar. And it was a lot to read, but it's a book that needs to exist. It's a book that I hope more people read. It's a book that I'm planning on purchasing a copy to have on my shelves. I loved it. Next is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is a book that I've already purchased. I am currently 70% of the way through it. I think I have 160 some pages left, so it's getting done today, I'm telling you. But if you did not know, this book did come out, and it is the 3rd book to Fourth Wing. This book is following a girl who has a disability, who has entered a war college to become a dragon rider, even though that was not her original intent, and her basically uncovering family secrets, political secrets. It's amazing. And then the last one for January also released on the 21st. And that is My Funny Demon Valentine by Aurora Ascher. This is a book that I am going to borrow from my library before I purchase it. In it, we are following a demon who just wants to be a musician, but unfortunately that is not the life he is living. So him and his brothers break out of hell and go to Earth. There he finds a human who works at a jazz bar who is also a musician, and they fall in love. But there are secrets on both ends. I think that there might be some sort of maybe heritage secret with her, because in the description it does talk about how she can see through his glamour. It definitely intrigues me, but at the same time, books with musicians don't grab me. As soon as I hear musician, I'm like, maybe not. But there's something about this book that I'm like, it could be good. So I think I'm gonna borrow it from my library. Moving on to February, the first one releases on the 4th, and that is The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune. This is a book that I somehow did not hear was coming out at all. So hopefully some of you are also finding out. I think this one I am going to borrow from my library as well. It's a book about a guy whose life is basically spiraling out of control. He decides to go back home to his family cabin that should be empty, but when he gets there, he finds a man and a 10-year-old girl who has supernatural powers, and there's some force entity coming after her. Now, I don't know if it's a government entity or a supernatural entity, but it's basically being described as 11 from Stranger Things meets TJ Klune. So I'm like, it's a TJ Klune, but at the same time, the description doesn't fully have me, so I think I will definitely be listening to the audiobook from my library. Then on the same day, Deep End by Ali Hazelwood comes out. Guys, I am pissed. I am so mad at this book, even though it's only my own fault. So this morning I was prepping for this video and was reading through the descriptions, and this whole entire time I have thought that this book was book 2 to Bride. And I don't fully know why. I think it's just because it's been a year, it's the same time as when Bride came out, we know that Bride is getting a sequel, and I just assumed this was it. But luckily, I decided to read the description to see if there's any other tidbits I could tell you guys about, and it turns out this is not the sequel to Bride at all. So if you were like me and you thought, oh my god, I'm so excited, I mean, it still sounds good and I'm gonna read it, but it's not the sequel. So for now, I think I'm gonna borrow it from my library when it comes out. This is a college sports romance following a swimmer and a diver who are extremely focused on their sport and their career. and they end up falling in love. So it does sound good. It's not what I wanted, but I'll still check it out. On February 11th, we have The Forest King's Daughter by Elly coming out. This is another one that I'm going to get from my library first. This book is following the King of the Forest daughter and the Queen of Demon's son, who, as they were children, were really good friends. He ends up gifting her a ring that he thinks is just a meaningless bauble, basically. But as soon as he does, a war is announced between their parents. So now it fast forwards to when they are teens, adults, I'm not sure. And it turns out this ring actually has magical powers. He decides to kidnap her in order to try to get the ring back and try to end the war, win the war. And it turns out that they're going to end up having feelings for each other. And that possibly they have a better answer than what's going on with their parents. So I am very intrigued. This sounds like the perfect book for me. It has been described that it's for fans of Sarah J. Maas and Holly Black. But I have read another series by this author and it was okay. So I'm going in with trepidation. But I am interested to check it out. On March 11th, we have 2 books coming out. The first book is Go Luck Yourself by Sarah Raasch, which I watched a YouTube video of hers, and that is how she says it, I'm pretty sure. So I think I have the pronunciation down, finally. This is book 2 to The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I am so freaking excited for. I already have a digital arc of it, and I cannot wait to consume it. In this book, we are following the other Prince of Christmas and the Prince of St. Patrick's Day. Somebody is stealing Christmas joy, and the culprit may be the Prince of St. Patrick's Land. And it also turns out that these 2 boys also go to college together and they are in some sort of rivalry. I don't know if it's about grades or what, but our main character, who is the Prince of Christmas, he equal parts wants to punch him in the face and kiss him. And that's all I need to know. The other book that is coming out the same day is Fan Service by Rosie Danan. This is another book that I will probably check out from my library, whereas the last one I'm definitely going to be purchasing a copy, even though I have a digital arc. I do want it on my shelves. But this one I'll be checking out from the library. It is about a girl who runs, I don't know if it's a podcast or a forum, but she has some sort of online space for fans of this werewolf detective show. So it's following her and the lead character of that show. And apparently they have met. It didn't go well. And so she kind of hates him while still loves the show. The show has now ended and the main actor's life is kind of spiraling. He's trying to figure out what to do with himself and he wakes up one day and finds out that he is a werewolf. And the only person that he can kind of consider an expert and to try to help him is this woman. So we kind of have this reluctant buddies situation, if you will. And I'm assuming they're going to fall in love. So I think it's going to be a good time. On March 18th, we also have 2 books coming out. The first one is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is another prequel in the Hunger Games series. It is taking place during the Quarter Quell when Haymitch was the tribute, and I am so excited. I'm definitely going to be purchasing a copy of this. I cannot wait to read this. I wish and hope that Suzanne Collins writes more in this world, but also writes anything, because I would like to read it. This woman is so smart. She writes so well. I can't get enough of it, and I can't wait to read this one. The other book coming out on the same day is The Serial Killer Support Group by Saratoga Schaefer. This book follows a girl whose sister has been murdered by a serial killer, and she doesn't feel that the detectives are doing a good enough job, so she finds this support group for serial killers and decides to go undercover as one herself to try to either find the person or garner information to find the person who killed her sister. This is one that I will definitely be borrowing from my library, and I don't know where this book is going to go. I feel like it's definitely going to be high anxiety because just that description alone, without even knowing any details of what's going to happen in this book, freaks me out. Completely freaks me out, but I'm excited. On April 10th, we have The Twisted Throne by Danielle Jensen coming out. This is the 5th book in the Bridge Kingdom series, and I have only read the first 2 books. I know. I need to get my shit together. I need to catch up. But that is my plan, to eventually catch up. So I would like to read book 5 at some point. The first 2 books follow 2 main characters, and then I know books 3 and 4 follow different characters. So I'm assuming if the pattern stays true that book 5 is going to be following somebody else completely different. But I don't care. These books are great, and I want to read it, which I will be reading through Kindle Unlimited, hopefully. On May 6th, we have a book that I will definitely be purchasing, and that is Lore Olympus Volume 8 by Rachel Smythe. You guys know that I am obsessed with the series. It started as a webcomic. It is slowly being published in physical formats, and they are stunning and amazing, and the storyline is great, and I just can't get enough. And I'm so excited for volume 8. And I will say that this book is probably the reason I decided to start doing new release videos again, because somehow volume 7 just never even heard of it. And then one day I was at Target and it was just sitting on the shelf, and I said, what the fuck is that? So now I know when volume 8 comes out, and I will have it in my hands and read it ASAP. On May 8th, we have The Man Made of Smoke by Alex North. This is a thriller horror is kind of what I'm guessing. I will be getting this one from my library. I have read an Alex North before, and kind of what I'm gathering from all of Alex North's releases so far is that it's pretty much the same story, but told many different ways. And I don't know if that is on purpose. I don't know if like this is just what he's into, but it's always about like somebody who is an adult who had some sort of like traumatic childhood thing happen to them, and now they have to go back as an adult and figure out what happened and then solve other crimes that have happened since or something. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have read Alex North and tell me, are these books all connected? Is it the same monster in all of them? So I would like to read, I've read one of his before, and I would like to read the rest of his, including this one. In this one, our main character is a criminal psychologist, and when he was 12, I believe, something happens to another child and he wasn't able to save them. He hid instead. So now he is an adult. He gets a call that his father, who is a retired cop, has gone missing, and the last time he was seen, he was heading towards the direction of like a well-known suicide spot. So he goes back home to try to find his father. He finds out that his dad has been investigating a Jane Doe murder that happened, and somehow that's connected to what happened when he was a child. So he's trying to figure out where his father is, what happened when he was a kid, and also what that has to do with the investigation that his father's doing now and why his father didn't trust the police to look into it. So it sounds very interesting, but again, it's very similar to the plots of his other books, so I need to know. On May 27th, which also happens to be my mother's birthday, we have a book that I haven't decided if I want to pre-order or if I want to wait, get it from the library, and then buy it if I love it. But that is And They Were Roommates by Paige Powers. This book follows our main character who is trans, and he is at an all-boys school. It turns out that his roommate is the boy who broke his heart a year before he transitioned, and I'm pretty sure that he's trying to like stay under the radar and not have anyone find out that he is trans. So he desperately wants a roommate change, but I think that both of them have to agree to it. So his roommate does not recognize him and agrees that he will put in the request to change roommates if he helps him do some sort of task dealing with Valentines. I'm not positive, but I think that they're eventually going to get to know each other, possibly fall in love, and then, deal with the fallout of being trans, but also we have already dated. So I'm very, very intrigued. This book was supposed to come out in 2024, and then it was pushed to 2025, and I want to read it. I think it's going to be lovely, so part of me is like, should I just pre-order it? But I don't know. On June 10th, we have Caught Up by Navessa Allen. This is book 2 to Lights Out, which was my #1 book of 2024. It is not following the same main characters, though, which is very sad, but that's okay. So in this, we are following the female character from Lights Out's cousin, who is part of the mafia, and his love interest. So when he was in high school, middle school, elementary school, I don't know. When he was in school, there was a girl that he was attracted to. I don't know if they actually dated, but she was like this very shy, quiet bookworm. They are now adults. He decides to look her up, and it turns out that she is no longer the innocent girl that she was, and that she is like a scantily clad woman who works at a play club. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't read a whole ton of mafia. I'm trying to get more into it this year, but I don't know what a play club is, so I don't know if it's like a sex club, if it's like gambling, all the above, whatever your heart desires. I don't know, but she works there. And he decides to go and visit, and she doesn't recognize him, or he's disguised. But he's basically stalking her, but they're both into it, and they're also messaging each other online, and I am a sucker. I am a sucker when there's some sort of communication that takes place, whether it's like in their minds, that's my #1 favorite, or texting or letters or emails or instant messaging, whatever, what have you. If there's some element of like communication that's just between the two that they are able to like read alone, basically, I'm a sucker for it. So I was already excited for this book, but when I heard that tidbit in the description, I was like, yes, definitely yes. So I will for sure be pre-ordering a copy of this book. And then last but not least, on June 24th is Don't Let Him In by Lisa Jewell. You guys know that this is my all-time favorite thriller writer. I love Lisa Jewell. I do already have a digital ARC of it, and I feel like I should go ahead and just pre-order it because I love everything she writes, and I need to physically own more of her books. But this one has me extremely intrigued because for the most part, you don't normally know what's going to go on in her books because they're always just wild. But in this one, I have no idea. I've come up with a theory already, and we'll have to find out if I'm right. But I have no idea what's happening. So in it, we are following 3 women, which is very on par for Lisa Jewell. You're always following multiple characters, and somehow their lives are interconnected. The 2 is mother and daughter. And the father/husband gets pushed in front of a train. And then this friend named Nick contacts them and sends them this lighter that supposedly used to be her husband's. And so the wife and this best friend kind of get very close and I'm assuming start dating, even though the daughter is not cool with it. She's in her 20s. So I think she's going to be the one that's piecing together the mystery that is in this book. Then we have another character who is a florist in a different town. And her husband travels for work a lot. They don't have a lot of money, and she's kind of at her wit's end because they have 3 children. And somehow these lives are intertwined, and it all comes back to them being warned not to let him in. So I have a theory of what could be happening in this book, and I don't know if I should tell you because it could be a spoiler. So if you want to know, just message me or something on social media. I'm intrigued. I'm very, very intrigued. So guys, those are the books that I am most excited to read in the first half of 2025. I hope that I have let you know about some books that you haven't heard of yet, but if there are some books that I did not mention that you are excited, be sure to leave them in the comments because I would love to see if I should add them to my TBR. Don't forget to keep reading, stay safe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!